Welcome to the Thoroughly Wrong Project with Lalo and Bob. We appreciate you spending some time with us today. Let's jump right into that weekly dose of things you can disagree with. Take it away, guys. All right, good morning and welcome to the Thoroughly Wrong Project on this foggy Sunday morning. This is your host and co-host. These are your cohorts, Lalo and Bob. All right, man. What's up?
Nothing much, man. Just trying to stay warm.
I know.
It's been cold these last few days.
Yeah, my bedroom is the farthest away from the heater, so it's fucking cold back here, man. I saw my breath the other morning. I was like, shit. I felt kind of poor, because I was in a cold room. So I went and got my hot tub to make myself feel better. I did. I spent most of the day yesterday in a hot tub. I know that sounds like such some bourgeois bullshit, but it was fucking cold and I have one. So there.
I just go for the thickest blanket.
Yeah. I got blankets on my bed but I kind of like the cold better than I like being overheated.
Yeah, I've always said that because you can always just add another layer.
Mm-hmm. You can't, once you get naked, that's it. Then it's just a mister and a fan. But conversely, in the summertime, I'm also the farthest away from the fucking air conditioner. So the vent at the end, is the least effective. So my room is like, if it's 106 outside, it's like 90 in here. Spend a lot of time in the garage. So in the summertime, I spend a lot of time in the garage because it's cool. And in the wintertime, I spend a lot of time in the garage because it has a fucking hot tub.
So you just spend a lot of time in the garage regardless.
I do. I must be. Oh, fuck, man. Now I'm a guy. Shit. I spend all my time in the garage. Son of a bitch. At least I'm not fixing shit.
Just don't tell your wife that.
No, I'm that guy too. Every time something breaks, they come to me with wide eyes like little deer. Like, can you fix this? Yeah, I can fix it. That's what guys do, I guess. That's all good.
I just tell my girlfriend yeah, I could call somebody to fix that. I know a guy.
I know a guy. Hey, how was your week, man?
Pretty good. It's pretty regular week, I guess. Almost Christmas break though, so that's good.
Yeah, I'm on Christmas break now. So I started, Friday. I took Friday off because I'm a substitute teacher and teachers you're supposedly not allowed to take the day off before a break. And you have to come back on the first day after the break. But the first 3 days, January 3rd, 4th, and 5th, I've already got a job. So some teachers already broken the rules, and what do I care? I'm getting paid.
Their loss is your gain.
Do what?
Said their loss is your gain.
That's right. I make $200 a day being a substitute teacher, man. It's not bad. Yeah, it's not bad at all. While I decide what I'm going to do with the rest of my life.
And you get up at 1:30 or 2:30.
Yeah, because I only teach SPED classes, so usually those classes come in late and leave early. Not the older ones. Like I like the pre-K and the kindergarten, first grade. Those are the best. The best ones. They're the easiest. It's like,
are they mild mod kids or are they severe kids?
No, I do moderate severe.
Oh, okay.
I take mild moderate as long as it's an autism class. But I like the moderate severes. I look at it this way, dude. I can't do mainstreams because I've had chairs. I've got terrible stories about being a substitute teacher. I've had chairs thrown at me and kids just walk out, and I had some fucking 8th graders just look at me and go, "Fuck you, I'm not doing what you say," and left. So there's no excuse for that except maybe, they need their ass kicked, I guess, by their parents once or twice. But The moderate severe kids, yeah, they have problems and they act out but they have a fucking excuse. So that makes it easier philosophically and psychologically for me to go, okay, this kid's acting out, but he's moderate severe, special ed. Of course he's going to do that. So I
Like it's
that's why,
expected.
yeah, you would expect that. And that's why I stopped, that's why I dropped out of school, because once I got into the system and I see how it works, it was like I could not subject myself to that abuse. And then on top of that, the rules, on top of that, the parents, on top of that, the hours that a teacher works. I'm like, I'm done. I'm not going to do this. I'll figure something else out.
Oh,
Your
okay.
your girlfriend's a teacher, right?
Yeah, she teaches high school, but she teaches mild mod kids.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
But yeah, she tells me stories all the time how they're. I mean, a lot from what she tells me, like a lot of them are pretty like high functioning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, they're just like regular kids. They just have like a hard time like focusing or
Yeah.
grasping some concept.
Yeah. Welcome to mainstream America, right? Where everybody's attention span is 15 minutes. So I don't know. I had a mild moderate kid the other day. I had him for 2 days in a row. And on the first day, after he left, I just asked the aide, I was like, so why is this kid in here? And she goes, oh, you'll see. You'll see. And I was like, all right. So the next day he took off all of his clothes and he had a fucking hard day all day long. So
Damn.
yeah, it's harsh, man. It's really hard to to teach them anything. And that's what I have buku respect for your girlfriend and for my wife, man. I don't know how they teach those kids anything the way, but I remember how I used to treat a substitute teacher too. So I made one cry once. So
A substitute teacher.
yeah,
Damn.
wasn't me personally, but they picked on her, and then they, when she left the room, they took gum and put it on her chair, and then tacks and put it on her chair. And when she pulled out and sat down, she stood up and saw the gum and just started crying. And then everybody was like, "Oh fuck, that's too far."
Damn.
I wonder, if she ever went to. She's probably a grocery clerk now, still.
She's like, I ain't doing this anymore.
Well, I got a question for you, man.
Yeah.
I've had a rough week, and there are no names, and I'm not going to say who it is, but I have somebody in my life that I cannot dismiss because family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that crazy uncle that you have, or So this is a tinfoil hat wearing person. All right, sends me every day. He sends me these, websites of like, tedjohnson.com, and Ted Johnson has figured out that Bill Gates is out to conquer the world. And here's why. And here's his 3-part series on how evil Bill Gates is. And so this person in my life who has watched Fox News, voted for Trump, got vaccinated really against his will, didn't want to do it, but felt like pressured, is refusing to get revaccinated, has had COVID, and sends me all these websites. And then I answer back with, I try to be reasonable, Lalo. I'm like, listen, these things you can't know that they're true and he'll come back to me with like, but look at this. These are the facts. Bill Gates gave money to this, and this. And I'm like, okay, Bill Gates did that. That's a matter of record. But why he did that is a matter of conjecture. So he gave $300 million to the World Health Organization. So suddenly Bill Gates is trying to take over the World Health Organization. And what do I do with this, man? You know the type of person I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the conspiracy theorists.
I think a lot of like something that people like that do a lot is they connect like dots and connect lines where there aren't any, you know?
Yes,
Like
exactly.
like what you just mentioned right now, like oh, like Bill Gates, he gave, this much money to the WHO. Like
Right.
what does that like does that mean something, you know? Like to them that means something different than to like anybody else, you know?
Sure.
You have to you kind of I mean it's hard to like get them out of that like bubble, you know? Cuz all these articles and all these stories and all these like videos that they watch, they're very like convincing almost, you know? Like the production style of the video, like the tone,
Yeah.
like the way they say things. They're very like menacing and like just convincing in general. Because I mean, I've seen them, you know.
Yeah, well, like you taught me, man, and this is on you. I give you all the credit. Everything that people send me, I watch or I read. And at the very, if it's an hour video, I will watch the first 10, 15 minutes of it to get the gist of it, because that's all it really takes. And I'll read the articles. And I see all this logical fallacies in it. But if you aren't if you aren't trained in logic, if you've never read a logic book or read a book about argumentation or any of that, you don't see these things. They're hidden in there. It's like the thing, he gave money to this organization, so this must be why. Well, that's a logical fallacy saying like because this after that. You know,
Yeah,
I'm going to say I'm going to jump to some fucking wild ass conclusion. And yeah, I understand that the production values are good. The websites are slick. Everything looks and feels right until you scroll to the bottom of the fucking website and it says meet 15 famous gay men who married women. And there's all this weird fucking advertising. And yeah, and click here if you think Joe Biden's doing a bad job. Well, where can I click if I think he's doing a good job? So how many people have clicked this website? And I seriously do not know what to do. Like you said, it's rough to pull them out of that mindset.
yeah. And I mean, I've told you before, like there's just some people that you're not gonna win the battle with, you know?
Right.
Because I mean, I've talked to people like in person and like online where you show them everything and they just like refuse to accept that they're like wrong, you know?
Yeah.
Whether it be like for their own like ego or just they just can't like think rationally or whatever it may be. They're just not gonna get it. So I mean, it's kind of hard to like how to, because I mean, it seems like you're doing like everything right, to try to like explain
Hmm.
to them like what, like you said, like if there's like wrong logic with their reasoning, or like you try to debunk like all the stuff they send you. Because I mean, you would think like, oh, like, hey, this is actually not true. Like, this is, the truth right here. Or like, hey, this is misleading because of this, blah, blah. You would think like people would see that like, oh, you're right. Like, I didn't catch that. Or, okay, now I see it.
Right.
But a lot of people don't, like, they just don't work that way, They'll either just deny it, or they'll like kind of move like the topic, like move the goalpost, like as I call it.
Exactly. And that seems to be one of the tactics that's being used against me all the time. If I say, well, that doesn't make sense because of this, then it leaps to another thing that seems to be tied in, but it's only tied in because you made it a wrong inference, a wrong, you, you followed a lead into the wrong pasture, I guess, and now you're looking for the wrong cow. That's the way I'm looking at it. So I don't know how to pull him back And I understand what you're saying. Some of you can't, but I'm caught between a rock and a hard place here because it's
Yeah,
a family member.
I mean the best the best I guess advice I would say is to just like and I mean I think the only thing you could do at that point is like kind of just keep going at it like the and by that I mean like every time they send you something it's I mean I've seen like those websites and those articles and it's pretty easy to like break them apart, you know,
Yeah, yeah, of
or
course.
like even those videos like you said within like 10 minutes you could kind of get like the tone and like the narrative and what they're trying to say. So it's pretty simple to like debunk them or like prove them false. So I mean, if you have like the time and the patience, I guess you can just do that like every time, you know, and maybe all it takes is like one time for them to kind of like for them to see it, you know, because
Yeah.
that's really all it takes. Like I mean, you see it, you know, clear as day, but they need to see it for it to actually like make a difference, you know, to them.
Okay. Okay. Well, I've tried something on. I'm on a Facebook group called Fit Over 50, and there's a bunch of people on it. There's like 2,000 members. So if you post on it, you get a lot of replies almost instantaneously because it seems to be a very organized, tight knit group of people, and everybody's pretty supportive. But they have about, I don't know, about 10% trolls, I guess. And so one day I posted a video, or I posted about here's a vegan recipe, and it had soy in it, it had tofu in it. So I get about instantly 3 or 4 messages how tofu is bad for me and it'll give you man breasts and estrogen and all this shit. So I politely said, no, it doesn't. Here's the study that debunked tofu, the estrogen connection to tofu. Here's the study from Harvard University, backed up by Cornell, backed up by. And still nothing, man. It's like, well, it ended up that one of the ladies was just like, well, you do what you want. I'm going to avoid it. And I said, back to her, I'm like, okay, I respect your opinion. So then after a few days of this just being attacked and attacked and attacked, instead of dropping out of the group, I posted just that. Instead of dropping out of the group, I'm going to make this suggestion. If you see a post about veganism, and you disagree, don't argue with it. Just just post something about your carnivorous lifestyle, and people will gravitate towards that. And it's perfectly okay to have groups within subgroups, and even subgroups within that. So you could be a fit over 50 vegan, whole food vegan. So then people learn from you and they follow the path that they want. And I got 3 apologies, man.
Oh damn.
Yeah, at just being kind instead of being argumentative and lashing back out and saying, well, fuck you, here's a study. I said, no, you might be mistaken. Check this out. I got some people who still said no, but I got 3 apologies. And people were like, you know what? We need to be kinder to each other. And it's like, wait, what? Totally unexpected, man.
Well, I think that comes that I feel like that part of that like reason was because like I feel like that community, like the vegan community is very like um I don't know, I think like just the fact of being like vegan in some weird way like implies that you're able to like think more critically, you know?
Yeah.
Because I mean to be vegan it's like a lot of people kind of like you know they do the research like to the benefits. They don't just like choose it, you know, on its own. Like they choose it for a reason.
Echo chamber research.
So people like to make that decision. It's like a pretty big decision, you know. So a lot of people kind of like they take in like you know all the factors in that they can. So I feel like with that community, it's Like, I mean, regardless, it's surprising, you know, how you said like they apologize, but
Yeah.
it's not like you. I don't think you're ever gonna see that from like a MAGA group, you know, like, hey, you're right. Bill Gates is just, you know, your average billionaire. He's not trying to take over the world. Sorry
Yeah.
about that.
Okay. You're right about vegans. It took me 2 years to change over. And it's all based, my entire life is based on two things: science and my experience. Okay. Not all scientific explanations are going to be conducive to my experience. I'll just say that.
Like, I've never been to space, but I guarantee you there's an outer space.
Yeah, exactly. So it took me a long time, and I'm a vegan because of what happened to me as I transitioned. It became a very, a calm down and more introspective and more thoughtful, and meditation became easier, sleep became easier, exercise became easier. I got more energy. All this shit happened to me that's really hard to break down in a nutshell when you're looking in the face of someone who supports the beef industry and eats the cow. No matter what you say to them, they don't they don't listen. They're not listening because, like I said, they're in that space where they do echo chamber research.
Yeah.
I'm looking for research that supports how I feel, not the truth. And it could be the truth, or it might not be the truth. I think things like veganism, religion, politics, all these things just have things that make you how you personally feel about it. And I just wonder why a lot of MAGA people, a lot of anti whatever the hell they are so fucking hateful and such trolls, and they don't want discussions. They just want to attack you with their research. Here, look, Bill Gates gave $300 million to who? Therefore, Bill Gates is a fucking evil genius who's looking to take over the world. Not true. Might be true, but probably not. Like you said, probably he's just an average billionaire who's giving $300 million to who's a fucking good thing. And I don't understand why it's got to be bad. But a lot of things that are happening right now are just simply bad, and you can't talk them out of it.
You know, a tactic that I also use a lot is I'll use like their own logic against them, you know?
Hmm.
You know, and I'll make like false connections and be like, so what you're saying is because this and that, then this also must be true, you know?
Right.
And then they'll see it, you know, sometimes they'll see it, be like, oh, so then, you know, Donald Trump must be a pedophile too because he hung out with fucking Jeffrey Epstein all the time, you know? There's
Yeah.
pictures of that. And they're like, no, you can't prove that, you know?
Okay. Well, you can't prove that Hillary Clinton is either then. So I get what you're saying. I get what you're
So
saying.
I try to like use their own logic against them. And a lot of times, like a lot of like connections that they make or like analogies, they're very like flawed, just in general. And I mean, I see it all the time. Like once you're able to like recognize the difference in like comparisons and analogies, like you're really like capable of like breaking them down for what they really are, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I was talking to somebody about it was like on Facebook, and it was like a story about or somebody posted like on a Facebook group like, hey, anybody know where I could get like a cheap used car? Like all these like used cars are like super expensive now.
Yeah.
And there was like a comment, and it's like that's what happens when people raise like the minimum wage, you know. And I replied to the dude, I was like, oh yeah, I'm sure a $1 minimum wage increase in California resulted in a 20% inflation cost in used cars nationwide. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And then they replied like, um, so you're telling me like, a used car is the same, uh, costs the same now as it did like 5 years ago. And I was like, well, first of all, like this huge like inflation spike didn't occur. Like it wasn't like concurrent with the minimum wage going up.
Right.
This whole like inflation thing just happened like in the last year and a half. And it's because of COVID. And I explained to him it's not because of, you know, people getting a dollar more. It's because, all these companies, they're trying to like recoup their losses from 2020, when nobody was buying stuff, like nobody was using gas. That's why
Yeah.
gas prices are so high, because all these oil companies are trying to recoup their losses. Has almost nothing to do with Joe Biden.
Yeah.
The demand for oil was so low in 2020. People weren't traveling. People weren't, driving. They were making trips. So nobody was using gas. That's why it was so cheap. And then, we kind of, started to open up the country more, started to ramp up travel, people traveling again, driving, work, going back to work, like in person, that takes gas, whatever. So these companies, like the demand is a lot higher. And it's so high, it's higher than the supply, for a lot of industries, not just gas. So, that's basic like economics, supply and demand. You have a high demand,
Right.
prices go up.
Low demand, prices drop.
Yeah. And I told him like a used car in 2010, because I looked it up. In 2010, like your average used car like it was like 20 grand. That same car, or like a 20 grand car, not the same car, but like a car that cost 20 grand then, right now would cost like 21,000.
Yeah.
So, that's the inflation of $1,000. So it's like they're not like doubling in prices.
I know, but the news reports that they are the news gives false reports, like they're up 40%.
Well, I mean, the last year and a half has been like not an anomaly, but like kind of like its own separate thing.
Which would be
But
an
I mean,
anomaly.
but that's what happens when it's like I said, like so many like industries like shut down or like slowed their production down a lot because nobody was buying things. Nobody was using, you know, oil, gas, just all these things. Like nobody was utilizing them. So these industries, these companies had to stop their production, and then it picked up at a faster pace than expected. And I mean, you could read into it. Like there's so many articles I read that like, oh, like the economy is like bouncing back like faster than people thought it would. So the demand kind of like spiked very rapidly, and it's kind of hard to keep up with that demand. When you're kind of like starting your production up, like to ramp it up, it's a slower process than the demand going up.
Right.
So that kind of creates like a bottleneck, and like I mean, there is a choice to like, there is an option to not raise the prices, but I mean, these are companies. I don't think they have the people's best interest in mind. They're just trying to make money. So I told
Well,
him like, if you want to blame anything, it's capitalism and corporate greed.
I don't think anybody has, I don't think anyone in power, corporations, healthcare systems, politicians, I don't think any of the overarching power structures have the common person in mind anymore at all. Nobody's running to make their country better. Nobody's running for their constituents who are suffering. Healthcare doesn't give a fuck about who's sick and who's not. I mean, they do. They want you sick. And that's how they make money. So this whole thing, this entire system is based on, you're absolutely correct, on capitalism and greed, the need to keep profits better than last year, better than last year, better than last year. It's just this cycle of, okay, 2020 sucked. We didn't make the profit. Let's see if we can make that up in 2021.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the only ways to do that is to raise your prices, you know.
Yeah. The
So, and a lot of these things are like inelastic, like things that we use, you know. It's like gas.
Mhm.
Like, you know, people complain like, oh, it's like $4 a gallon. It's pretty soon it's gonna be $5 or $6. And it's like, okay, but are you gonna stop buying gas? You know? Like,
Right.
no, you need gas. You know, you're gonna buy it regardless. And these oil companies know it. That's why to them it makes little difference, you know, what the price is. Because, you know, like I said, it's inelastic. Like we, regardless of what it costs, we're gonna have to pay for it. It's like insulin, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh
oh shit,
God.
bro, insulin's like hundreds of dollars. Well, what are you gonna do? Not buy it and die? And it's like
No.
these companies, like they know that and they see that and they like take advantage of that.
Can you imagine it's hard for me to believe that people sit around in corporate boardrooms or wherever they have their little meetings and they discuss this, man, and not from our viewpoint of what they're doing. They're discussing what they're doing. And these are the things that they talk about. We're going to have to double prices. Hey, man, we got more diabetics and more diabetics. Let's raise the cost of that insulin. Yeah, let's do that because, well, yeah, we'll make money. And, you know, does anybody's hand raise and say, what about the poorer people, the diabetics who aren't going to survive this? You're going to kill them. Ah, fuck them. You know, fuck them. If they can't afford their medication, then they can't live. And that seems to be the most cruel thing that I can think of. If when you deny someone health care or raise the price of their medication so high that they don't survive it, shouldn't you be held liable for that somehow?
I mean, you should be, but since when are like these huge, like big pharma companies or just any big company in general, like held responsible for all these things?
I found it interesting that you said, see, this discussion came from a post and then it was like a non sequitur
Yeah,
retort.
people use a lot of those.
Yeah, I posted a video the other or a picture the other day. It was a Gary Larson cartoon where he was a clown. The clown was in the gun store, and the clown, the thought bubble said, "Yeah, laugh at me, will they?" So I got a backlash from that about how that's not funny because there's so many shootings, and then out of the blue comes this. That's what happens when the Democrats are in charge. It's like what? What are you talking about, man? You just want to make everything about one thing because that seems to be how that's easy. But when you step back and you're a thoughtful person and a logical person and you look with clarity at what's happening and you see that the problem is systemic and structural and it starts way back. It's not the fucking Democrats. It's not Joe Biden. It's not Trump. Trump isn't the fucking problem. The system that put him in office is the problem, and that's not even the real problem. It's the thing that created that fucking system. So it's the problem is so huge and so complex that people were like, "Well, raise the minimum wage $1 and that'll fix everything." No, liberal, I'm sorry, that's not going to work. Well, fucking raise prices so high that people can't buy things. No, listen, man, we got to stop and we got to think, what are the main issues here? And seriously, how do you go back and dissect the last 50 years that led up to the problem that, or not problems that we're having today of this systemic building of a network that no longer cares for the people of the country. It only supports big business.
I think a lot of it has to do with like our education system. I think we like if you really like if you look at the statistics, like we're very for being as like what's the word I'm looking for? like the United States is a very like not progressive but like advanced country, you know.
Hmm.
But we're not very like smart when it comes to like just simple things like critical thinking, you know,
Yeah.
reading, you know, math, like the basic just educational like pillars. We're pretty low like when it comes to, you know, advanced societies or like first world countries, you know.
Yeah. We're the bottom of the first world barrel. We really are.
So I think when you have like such a large population like that, and I know it's not like everybody, you know, there's like smart people here and there, or whatever, but we have a big population, or like a significant percentage of people that are not highly educated. And, you know, by that I don't mean like, I don't necessarily mean college, but like even high school, you know, there's a lot of people that just never graduated high school.
Right.
So I think when you have such a large population like that, it's very easy to like manipulate them. And I think a lot of people, especially like outside countries, figure that out during like this whole COVID thing. You know,
Yeah.
people are like looking at the United States and they're like, these guys are like they're really fighting over like wearing a mask, you know, or getting vaccinated. And you look at other countries and they're like, they're you know, they're puzzled because they can't understand why we think the way we do. And it's
Right.
because we like that ability to like just think critically and not make everything like political, you know.
Well, I truly did not know how to construct an argument until, let's see, I'd have been 38 years old. I mean, I understood how to argue and facts needed to be there and all that, but I didn't recognize logical fallacies. I didn't until I took a logic class. And that changed everything for me. And I'm with you. I don't think everybody needs a college education, but dude, if we had say 11th and 12th grade, in order to graduate from high school, you got to pass a simple, basic critical thinking slash logic slash philosophy class and make it rough, make it hard so that people can, do Venn diagrams and see how you diagram an argument and what the top, don't teach them all, but give them the top five at least. Logical fallacies, the ones that are used the most, ad hominems, non sequiturs, things like that. Teach people that. And then maybe when they go out in the world, when they start to open their mouth, they'll say, you know what, that doesn't connect. That doesn't work.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons why we are like in the situation we're in right now. Just because people, you have like, you know, it seems almost like it's 50-50, you know,
Yeah.
where you have like half of the people thinking one way and half the other people thinking this other way. And it's hard to like get, I mean, they both think they're 100% right, you know?
Hmm.
So when you have that combination, it's kind of hard to like, you know, shift the tide even, you know, either way. So I think it starts with our, like our educational system,
Yeah.
and we kind of go from there.
My wife teaches logical fallacies in eighth grade. So I'm pretty happy about that. I think that's a step in the right direction. And I know in Europe in high school you have to learn a second language or even a third, and you have to take a logic class, and you study philosophy in high school. So you're probably right. I mean, it's not like there's not people over there who aren't protesting vaccines and masks. They're on the news. I think they're situation is a lot better than ours. And like you said, it's 50-50. But the fucking weird thing is it's 50-50 for the people who are plugged in and those people who vote. You're talking about millions, tens of millions of people that don't vote, don't care, don't give a fuck, don't think that voting helps, don't think that politicians are going to ever be right. And so we got all these people that have just completely dropped out of the argument or complete, I would like to get more, instead of working on MAGA, instead of working on the people that believe that Bill Gates is fucking, stealing souls or whatever the fuck they say he's doing. Instead of working on that, I think it would be easier to turn to the people who aren't voting and say, let's talk about this. Let's talk about why you're not voting. And, it's easier to convince someone when they don't give a fuck to give a fuck than it is to convince somebody who's 100% right. And no matter what you say, that you're wrong. And if we brought in more people that didn't vote, and if we could teach those people to think critically, and I'm going to include you and I think critically, we think we're right, but we're also open for interpretation. You can tell me something and I'm going to look at it. And I've changed my mind big time since we started this podcast. I waited in here not open to anyone else's thoughts or feelings, socialism, all the things that you've taught me, thinking critically about other people's arguments. I've learned a lot in the last couple of years that we've been doing this, or year, however long it's been. But if more people stop to think rather than that knee-jerk fucking reaction, I think things will be better.
Yeah, they'd be a lot better. But I think it's one of those things that it's gonna, unfortunately, like take a while, just due to the fact that it's to like create a meaningful amount of like change in that.
Mm-hmm.
It might take like a generation or two, just because, like I said, in my opinion, it starts at our educational system. So we kind of have to change that first, and then wait until it starts to take effect.
Yeah. Well, how the education system is broken. You know that. Your girlfriend's a teacher, and if she doesn't think
Yeah.
it's broken, then I'm sorry for you. So, but it is broken. And I had this weird epiphany the other day. My wife sent me a picture of her desktop where, yeah, you've seen the virtual classroom, right? Where the teacher's like an emoji, and you can click
Yeah.
on different things in the classroom and like open up books and stuff. So here's my wife in the back of the class online teaching kids who are in the same room with her via a computer. We're starting, and that really led me to think about the metaverse and how this is a step towards it. We're going to do everything online. And the reason she does that is not her choice. The reason she did it is because we got kids out with COVID. They're mandated by the government to be taught online. So the schools have to meet the mandate. So they tell the teachers, we need you to do everything in the classroom and then everything online. So you give teachers like twice the load. And the easiest thing to do, Laura told me, my wife, she said the easiest thing was just to put it all online. So now we got kids in the classroom with a teacher being taught online. Isn't that odd?
They're just
Yeah,
they're online, but they're in person.
yeah. And doesn't that, that, like I said, that reminded me of that the metaverse where everything's going to be, you're going to be an avatar. Is that what it's called? An avatar?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
But I
how
mean,
fucking strange is that?
because I was gonna ask, like, what's your like opinion on that? Because I mean, I feel like to a lot of people that's very, like you said, it's very strange, but it's also like to a lot of people it's just like wrong. Like
Yeah.
that's weird. But like because I mean I've thought about it. Because I mean, first glance, like yeah, it's weird. Like you can be doing everything off like online and stuff, but like I've thought about it, and it's like I feel like just the way we're going, like technology wise and technological, like it's kind of, I don't want to say inevitable, but like I feel like it's the natural like next step, you know?
Yeah, I do too.
Because I mean, if you look at us now, like we're like on our phones like half the day as it
Mhm.
is.
Yeah, I'm 5 hours right now.
So I feel like maybe it's not like the next step after that, but like it's definitely like within a few steps
Yeah, that's why I
that you'll
said
just like,
it seems to be a step toward this online, in-person, simultaneous thing that's happening seems to be, okay, the next step is towards walking towards the metaverse. And
right.
you asked my opinion. I got really the same opinion you do, and bear with me here. We used to be in horse and buggies, and cars came along, and then there was a big outcry of like, oh, we can never do this, and then now we're all in cars. And then telephone, when the telephone was invented, people were like, that's not, you got to do things in person or otherwise that's not right. So telephones are normalized. Jump forward 30, 40 years and online dating, and everybody raged against online dating because that's not right. Because that's not how we meet people. You can't really know a person if you don't meet them in person. Now no, online dating is totally okay. People are hooking up for sex. I mean, it's just everything that comes along. There's always going to be a portion of the population who bucks against it. No, that's not right. But the thing that we have done now, if you go back when I was a kid, I was thinking about this the other day. This amazing thing has happened. When I was a kid, we used to get up on Saturday morning and go downtown. And it was a small town, but the downtown was maybe a mile long. And it had every store you could think of. It had bars and billiard rooms and lunch counters. It had hardware store. Everything you can think of that you needed in your life was downtown in Weston, West Virginia. And that's where we went. And we spent all morning there. And then on the way home, we stopped at the grocery store and got groceries for the week and went home. Walmart comes in, destroys that. So what happened was malls, which were evolving at that time, malls became downtown, like a simulation of downtown, except it's tweaked a little bit. Now it's inside, climate controlled. You're not going to get wet, but you're still going store to store to store to store. And now that malls are dying, and where's it going? Online.
Yeah.
Everything is going online. So if you're raging about your small town America being gone, yeah, it's gone, man. Walmart destroyed it, malls overtook it, and now Amazon takes that. It's like some fucking bizarre chess game of where this is taking that and this becomes that. And so I think that the metaverse is inevitable, and therefore we should try to control it as much as we can instead of raging against it and it's happening without us. Okay, let's plug into it and see what's going on and try to take control of our lives a little bit. It's the next logical step in this social evolution, if you want my opinion. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
going to plug into it. Of course, I'm going to plug into it, and I'm going to do it willingly, but not thoughtlessly. How about that?
No, yeah, that's a good, like a good way to put it. Because you're either gonna, like with like every like technological step, there's always those people that kind of like refuse, like they
Yeah,
don't want to. I remember there was like this time where people were like, "Oh, I'm never gonna get a smartphone," blah
yeah,
blah. And now like you could literally get one for free, like at the corner of the street.
exactly.
So it's one of those things. Like you said, I think that's a good way to put it. Like make it so you're able to make it the way you want it to be, not
Yeah,
just let it control or like take over you. You kind of all right, let's see what this is about. Like, hey, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and that's how you could kind of like mold it to your preference.
exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, like I said, we're like halfway through that door already, with like smartphones and all these
Yeah.
like Zoom meetings and like even me, like when like I'll play like video games with like my friends, like we'll chat.
Yeah.
There's like a party chat, and you can like you just talk to them, and they'll live like 2 hours away, you know. So I think that's kind of the whole point of like this metaverse is like you could literally be like you know halfway across the world and just talk to them. And I mean, you
Yeah.
could do that now, sure, like over the phone and FaceTime, but like I think there's like an element that's added when it's like you have your little avatar right there and you're like sitting in like a living room with somebody, or like at a table, even if it's like virtually. Like I think just like the visual like aspect of that, it kind of adds like an element to it.
Hmm. I think so. Have you seen the Bruce Willis movie Surrogate?
um I feel like I've heard of it, and I think I might have seen it
Where
just a long
everybody's
time ago.
home and everybody's like android robot that they inhabit its mind, and they're out doing things in society in real time, but they're at
It sounds
home.
very familiar.
Yeah, and everybody tends to leap towards these negative things that, you know, when the telephone came, there was like all kinds of negatives that could have happened that didn't. And then there's all kinds of technological things, the cell phones. Oh man, not me. These things are happening, and it would be wonderful if instead of raging against it and letting it be out of our hands, its development, to go, okay, you want me to teach from home, you want me to shop from home, you want me to visit other people from home. And I don't see why that's so fucking evil. That lets a lot of people who are socially awkward in. Um, it lets you
It's very
see,
accessible.
yeah, and it makes everyone in your family accessible to you, except of course the MAGA people. I ain't doing that. They're going to control us. How I don't understand how those fucking leaps to they're going to control us, and it's like asking questions like it's like take our survey. Um, when the metaverse takes over your life, how are you going to handle it? When the metaverse goes, when the metaverse takes your freedom, how are you going to handle it? There's the question, and it's like, well, maybe it's not going to take my freedom. It's like those online surveys. How do you feel about Joe Biden trying to take your guns? Well, those aren't real questions.
And
So
I was gonna say, it's not one of those things where, like, I don't want people to think like this would like, you know, uh, something like that will take over someone's lives.
yeah,
It's just that, um, it's like with smartphones, for example. It's not that, oh, here's a smartphone, like here you have to use one now. It's just that it's one of those things that's very like widely like adapted and accepted. So if you're kind of like the odd man out, um, you kind of miss out on a lot of things, and you kind of
yeah,
do get like left behind. Like if you're like still like hardcore like anti like smartphone and you still have like a flip phone or whatever from like 30 years ago,
I've seen
it's
them.
almost like, hey, let me send you this picture, and it's like, oh, I can't get pictures on my phone. Hey, let me FaceTime you real quick. Oh, I can't video call.
Yeah,
Hey, can you Google this for me real quick? Oh, I can. I don't have a smartphone. And it's just like little things like that where it's like the world around you like adapts to the technology, but you don't. That's how you get left behind. It's not that people are like forcing you to get it, but it's it's like just the world around you is changing, and if you don't change with it, if you don't adapt to it, you'll get left behind.
Yeah, I
It's
want to
like
ask.
people. It's like I was gonna say it was like farmers. Like hey, they invented this new thing. They call it a tractor to help us like plow the fields faster. And the guy's like, "Oh no, I'm still gonna use like my donkey and just like drag the plow behind him."
Yeah,
And it's like, okay, but then you don't produce as much crop, and you end up going broke or bankrupt.
and then you blame the system. That's an interesting thought, isn't it?
Yeah,
You reject the technology or the modifications, and then suddenly you get left behind because everybody else, and then you're like, the fucking system screwed me again. No, you screwed yourself, bro. I mean, seriously. And that's what's happening to a lot of people. They're going to get left behind. But I think more often than not, even the guy who still has a flip phone, and I see him occasionally, not often, but they're few and far between. They're not plugged into the system. They're not, and maybe that's what they want, and that's perfectly okay. If they're going to go Christmas shopping, they're going to go to Target or Walmart or whatever store. They don't order shit online. They don't do things like that. And you get left behind. So then when things like you said, when they're not making any more plows to drag behind horses, you kind of don't have a choice. When your flip phone doesn't plug into the system anymore, you kind of don't have a choice. You can go
yeah,
without, you know.
yeah. I mean, you could always. There's always that choice of like not going with it, but I mean, your life's just gonna be like so much harder.
Ted Kaczynski, you'd be living in a log cabin in the woods, writing letters to and building bombs. I mean, is that?
So it's just you either get with it or. And I mean, it's not. I think a lot of people just fear it or don't like the idea of it because it's very. It seems like a very big step,
Hmm.
like in a weird direction. Because I mean, it is weird. Like just thinking about it, it's a weird like concept to grasp. Like
Yeah.
a virtual world, like living in a virtual world. And I still think I don't think we're that close to just like completely like living in a virtual world. Like I still think that's a little ways away, but I could definitely see like within the next 5 to 10 years, like a lot of things happen like virtually,
Yeah.
whether it be like shows, like concerts, types of gatherings. So it's
I always thought when I was a kid, I always thought that yeah, I went to tons of concerts, and occasionally there would be a recorded concert show at the movie theater. And I always thought, man, if you would go live like the news is live when I was a kid, live television was live. If you would project that concert, Led Zeppelin live tonight in Boston, and you could go pay $10, $15 to go see it at your movie theater. Why not? And that looks like where we're headed now, where everything's
yeah,
just going to be, if you want to go see, Imagine Dragons, well, log on Thursday night because they're live from 8 to 10, and it's $100. But man, if you have the 50-inch television and the surround sound, you're going to get a better experience than being actually at the concert.
yeah. And I mean, I still think there's value in like certain things, like being in person.
Yeah, sex.
Like like for me personally, like things like shows and especially concerts, like I feel like that just like the atmosphere of like being in an arena like full of like screaming people,
Uh huh.
it kind of adds to, I don't know, it kind of like you can't really like replace that, or you can't like simulate that to where it's the same thing. Because I mean, I've seen like Coachella or like Lollapalooza like live streamed on YouTube and stuff.
Hmm.
And it's cool, like yeah, you most likely will have like a better angle because the camera's like, right up in their face.
Yeah.
Um, and it probably sounds a little bit better because, the audio is like filtered through the stream and
Exactly.
everything.
Yeah.
But I would rather much more be there over seeing it like on a TV screen, which sounds like counterintuitive, but it's like watching a football game, It's like
Yeah.
if you watch it on TV, like, you get replays, you could go to the restroom whenever, you could get food, you have the best seat in the house.
Yeah.
But being there like in person, it's like a completely different experience.
Well, I'm with you on that one, but here's
And
the
I think there's
thing. Once in a
well,
while, I'd like to go to a football game. Once in a while. But
yeah,
I'd rather be in my living room and watch football most of the time.
yeah. But I mean, there's still going to be like that. Um, like you brought up the example of like malls and like what they replaced. They kind of
Hmm.
replaced that like downtown like
Yeah.
atmosphere of like little shops and stuff like that. And I mean, you can still find that now. Like, you go downtown, even here in Bakersfield, there's tons of little stores and like thrift stores and
Uh-huh.
bunch of like little restaurants um, that you probably like. I've certainly never knew like they even existed. I was like, oh look, there's like a taco place right there.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, there's still like those things don't really like they don't completely go away. Um, like they're still there. It's just not like the mainstream thing.
Yeah. Well, I have a friend. It's a, she owns Needful Things. You know where Needful Things is?
No, I'm
Okay.
guessing it's downtown somewhere.
It's on G Street next to Better Bowls. So it's right next to the Padre. If you go around, the Padre's on H, I think, and then if you go right around the corner, go behind it, there's a little store there. She has the best of both worlds. She's got a ton of walk-ins, but she's like makes most of her money offline. So she's one of those stores where you can actually go into it and get what you want, or you can go online and get what you want. So that's better than Amazon to me because I can't go wander around Amazon aimlessly, wondering, drinking a drink that I got from next door and eating a taco from the vegan taco place, whatever. Amazon's completely digital. Needful Things is digital, electronic, and the store or digital walk-in, and then the other stores are dying out. If you don't get online, you're not going to fucking make it.
Yeah, and I mean that's a very like it's like a hybrid type of thing.
Hmm.
You could do both. And there's a
Yeah,
lot of places, a
I
lot of
like
stores
that
that
place.
you could do that. So,
Tart, yeah.
I mean, there's always going to be like that little like section of, you know, like in person things or like that's not, I don't think that'll ever like completely go away just because, uh, like as human like beings, sometimes like we do need that like in person like interaction and like that human to human and, like
Right.
physical interaction. Um, but I could definitely see it like of more of a hybrid like lifestyle. Like, hey, all our meetings are gonna be like digitally, like forever, not just like during COVID or whatever,
Right.
but just because it's more convenient um, for like not only the companies but like the people in them.
Well,
Hey, we have a meeting at like 8 a.m.
then that's
Hey,
what
let
what school is. The
yeah,
schools now are hybrids. That's a good point, man.
yeah. And I mean,
Across
there's
the
always going to
boards.
be students that are like they're better like suited for like face to face teaching.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm one of those people like I could focus better because if I'm just like at home like on my computer I'll get like distracted or I'll like look at something on my phone or just open up another tab or whatever.
Yeah.
But I
Especially when you
think
have two monitors.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where um, there's always it's not gonna be like uh like overnight, you know, like oh shit, like hey we're just avatars now. And I always go back to the like the one movie that I always go back to when it comes to like this whole like virtual like living is Wally. Have you seen Wally?
No, I never. A lot of people have told me to watch it, and I never got around to it.
Right. So I mean, it's about like you know the little robots and whatnot, but the humans in that like society, they're just like in floating chairs, and they're super like obese because they don't need to walk anywhere. They don't need to do anything, you know.
Right.
Like all their meals are like liquefied. You can get like a burger shake, you know, and it's
Nice.
they're just like surrounded by like these like hologram like monitors and screens, you know, and they're just like completely like in this like virtual world. And there's a part in the movie where like there's like a malfunction and like their screens go away and they're like able to see like everybody else, you know, and it's kind of trippy for them. But it's fun. It's
Especially.
weird. It's funny because like the screens they're like semi-transparent, so you could actually see through them. But I think they did that on purpose to kind of like give the example of like people like your ability to interact with other people was there, but you just like you don't acknowledge it, you know? If that
Right.
makes sense. Because I mean,
That makes perfect sense.
like they're just so like in tune to like this like virtual life. So I mean, I think like scenarios like that are very good at like kind of giving us like a roadmap and like on what not to do. You know,
Yeah, like the movie
like
Surrogate I was talking about.
yeah, like I think we're smart enough to not go like 100% in, like you know, because it's like I said, we still need that like that human to human like interaction. Like,
Yeah.
and I think that's like psychological. I don't think that's something we'll be able to like change easily.
Right, because a fourth date with sex online is just still just masturbation. So let's not quibble here. I You and I have both been on the bus or in a plane or waiting in the doctor's office. We're with people who aren't really in the room. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're there, but they're not. And I
Right.
mean,
There's
sometimes I'm that person. Like I'll just
Yeah,
be there,
absolutely. Me too.
like on my phone, and you know I can hear the people talking, but I don't know what they're saying.
Right.
I think that's the best way I could put it.
That's odd. It's odd to think about, isn't it? I mean, from even from your childhood to today is the change is like immense. And from my childhood to today, the change is like mind blowing. And it's like,
Yeah,
what the fuck just happened? And and you still have those people like, where's the flying cars? Well, they're self driving now. Is that enough? It's like,
yeah. I always I always tell people that technology advances like exponentially.
it
So
does, man.
it seems very like large leaps. You know,
Yeah.
like 'cause I mean, even 10 years ago, like think of like an iPhone 10 years ago versus like an iPhone now.
Oh man. Complete. Yeah.
It's like night and day. You know.
Yeah. I had the
And
iPhone
you know,
1, the original.
and you look at like an iPhone, you know, 10 years ago to like a phone 10 years before that,
Yeah.
and it's like, you know, there were like little Nokia phones with like the little snake game, you know, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. And
So
before
it's
that, it was in your car and it looked like your house phone. You know, it still had a cord to a box and you look like, you were still doing that. I had that phone too. That's fucking hilarious. That technology, like one technological advance leads to 10 others. That's what's happening. So
yeah,
that's why it just changes so rapidly. It's like, oh man, we got this new chip. Well, fuck, what can we do with it? And it does all kinds of things. And then all the kinds of things lead to all kinds of things. And suddenly, you and I are sitting in our separate bedrooms having a discussion and recording it. and then putting it online, and then other people can go here, listen to it, and agree or disagree, be entertained. It's the world's a different place, man. And speaking of putting things online, I did not put last week's online because, can I be honest? Because I, I take notes during the podcast, so I know what we talked about. Well, last week I took notes and then it got thrown away. So I don't have any fucking idea what we talked about last week because we talk about so many different subjects. So in order to write taglines and what it's about and headline or titles and all that shit, I got to know what we said, Lalo. So this one I have the notes. It'll go up online quick. Last week's, it's going to be a minute, but I like to have that. It's a backup in case we miss a week. How about that?
That's a good
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
because I notice a lot of the podcasts I'm on, I'm just in the queue now because of the one I was on 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago is coming out January 28th
Yeah,
because
they're like super. They like pre-record them and
yeah, and then they go in and edit out every fart, click, everything. So they're real slick, which is what I do appreciate about ours because car goes by, chair squeaks, somebody takes a drink, somebody clears their throat, and that's all
yeah,
fine. That's all fine. It makes it more
raw.
it makes it more better for the digital world, I guess. It makes the digital world seem a lot less sterile. How about that?
I'll take it.
All right. Well, that's it, man. It's been a great one. I enjoyed this one a lot. Um, the only thing I want to take, the only thing I want to reiterate is the thing that I invented in the, and don't just apply it to the metaverse, apply it to your politics, apply it to your life. Go willingly into change, but don't do it fucking thoughtlessly because that'll doom you to become part of a system that you can't escape and you can't think anymore. Think about what you're doing, That makes more sense than anything. The metaverse is coming, and bitch, you're not going to do anything about it. I mean, you're not going to do anything about it, which that seems to be my biggest argument against the tinfoil hat wearers. And I don't say that maliciously. Let's just call them the MAGA people or whatever. But it's what I tell them. You're telling me all these things are coming and all these things are wrong and all these things are evil. What are you going to do about it? That seems to be my question to them. What do you want me to do? Bill Gates is taking over the world. Okay. If you truly believe that, what's your solution? And they don't
I
have
mean,
one.
it's not that far fetched if you think about it.
Right. It's not.
Do you know Bill Gates owns the most farmland in the United States?
Yeah. Does
So
that,
maybe
well,
they're onto something after all.
maybe, but do you know Jeff Bezos owns more warehouses than anybody? Okay, that's what billionaires do. They buy things, and they buy things that are investments. And Bill Gates is invested in farmland. And maybe he's not trying to take over the world. Maybe he's saying, okay, farmland's being used inappropriately. I want to change that. So he has some ideas about how he's going to change farming. And we need to do that. We need to change everything because operating like it's 50 years ago is fucking stupid. It's stupid at how we think that, doubling the population and we can still fucking do the things we used to do. No, we can't. We have to change things. And if Bill Gates is going to buy all the farmland and make better changes, that's cool because I can't see how Bill Gates is going to buy all the farmland and then go, I'm not going to grow food for you anymore. No, he's not. He's trying to make money, and that's fine. If he makes money off farming, good for him.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked super like into all his like endeavors, I guess, or like
Would
what?
you like me to send you some websites? I have a lot.
But I mean, like from what I've seen, like Bill Gates, like talk about, he seems very like philanthropic. So
Hmm.
I know he has that like Bill and Melinda Foundation, the Gates Foundation or whatever it's called now since they're
Yeah.
divorced.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's still a billionaire, so it's kind of like my instinct is to like not trust him. But I know he's also like helped a lot more than like your average billionaire, I guess.
Right. I-
Like he's super into like eradicating AIDS. I think that's like his big thing. Because I mean he's long gone from like Windows. Like he doesn't even deal with that anymore.
right. He stepped down a long time ago. He's still making money off of it.
Yeah, but he's like from what I've heard him talk, he's very into like trying to solve like the world's problems.
Yeah.
Instead of like trying to fucking go into Mars or whatever. Which
Hey,
I mean,
hey,
I'll take
hey.
that. I'll take that any day.
Yeah, easy. You know, a lot of things were invented because we went to the moon. You do know that.
Yeah, but NASA was a government program.
Hmm.
It wasn't one dude.
You're not
So
going to come. You're not going to come to metaversical blows, man. I like him. I like him. He's person of the year. There you go.
I feel like he paid for that. He probably like offered them a lot of money to put him on the cover.
Damn it. Do I have to come over there and snatch that tinfoil hat off your head right now?
I mean, that's not really a conspiracy there. I wouldn't put it past him.
No, I wouldn't either. Bill Gates will buy it next year. All right. All right. I'm going to go eat, man.
All right, so I'm gonna probably watch some football in a bit.
Well, yeah. That's why I
We're in
got to
our
eat.
fantasy playoffs, so
Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to that. What
it's
are
a big
you going to
week.
take me out to? You going to take me out to dinner in the metaverse?
We could have some virtual dinner.
Virtual vegan food? All right. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, this has been the Thoroughly Wrong Project. And as always, Lalo and I are educated, well-read, quite articulate. Although we do use, well, I do use some very pornographic words. But there's a big grand possibility that we're wrong. Even Lalo said today, Bill Gates is buying all the farmland. Something might be up with that. Something might be up with that. We might be wrong. He might be wrong. I may be wrong. But here's the thing. It's like I always say in our outro, never be afraid to be thoroughly wrong, but be open that you may be wrong and you might learn something, right?
Yes.
All right, man. Well, this
As
has
always,
been
keep your
Bob.
mind open. And Lalo.
There you go. Open-minded Lalo. And we'll see you next week, man. This has been the
Later.
Thoroughly Wrong Project. Have a good day. Later, dude. You have now experienced the Thoroughly Wrong Project with your podcast hosts, Lalo and Bob. We can now be found on Pandora Radio, Apple Podcasts, Podium Podcast, or by searching the Thoroughly Wrong Project to locate our YouTube channel. You can contact us directly by email at thoroughly-wrong@gmail.com or just leave a comment on any of our platforms. Until next time, thanks for spending your valuable time with us, and remember, always speak up and never be afraid to be thoroughly wrong.